Can I get a confirmation that the audio is okay? Sandy, Joanne saying much better. Okay. Wow. Sorry about that. Whew. Thank you. I don't know what was going on there. Hopefully I'll fix it for next time. Sorry. Sorry. See, this is why we need Daryl, right? Yeah. This harkens back to an old TV show called, what was the Andy Griffith show? Aunt B went on vacation and she came back and everything was clean because her friend had cleaned the house and she felt like she wasn't needed. So I'm messing up on purpose so Daryl knows he's needed. Okay, so I hope you believe all of that. Anyway, so the admin experience, the SharePoint admin experience will be updated, and this update will be rolling out. It was already rolled out for organizations with 50 or fewer licenses, and it'll be rolling out more broadly to everyone. So, all right, I will keep going. If we have time, I'll try to go back to those previous messages. Terribly sorry about the audio. Anyway, the next one. This one is quite huge, and I'm glad that we got the audio fixed, because this is changing some administrator roles in for you within your environment. And I want you to be kind of aware of one big thing that you need to understand. Okay, so the first one is information protection administration, where they're just updating that to change it to the Azure Information Protection Administrator from Information Protection Administrator. And so you'll see that change, that rename change. But then they're also adding a new privileged role administrator, and this is kind of big, because this is a role that basically gives them privilege to do anything. Okay, so what I mean by that, it first of all, the ability to connect, revoke any delegated or app permissions. Okay, that's great. So being able to manage apps and permissions apps have, great. But then ability to create, update, delete, including membership management. Okay, so this, for us SharePoint friends, as we have known in the past, when you're a site collection administrator, you don't need access to get everything, right? You already have access. But as a farm administrator, you don't have access unless you give yourself site collection administrator, right? If you follow me. Same here with this privileged role administrator. You don't have necessarily privileges to the content or do anything. Like you don't have SharePoint admin, you don't have Exchange admin, but you can give yourself those things, or anyone else for that matter. So I just wanted to highlight that, to be careful, people, when you're using this, that's the case. I'll switch over to the, if you click on the more information, on the page, it actually shows important. This role grants the ability to assign, to manage assignments, and it doesn't have privileged abilities. However, users assigned to this role can grant themselves permission. So just want to highlight that. This is like a super user. They can grant themselves permission, so we definitely want to be auditing that. So that is MC177503. Next, Microsoft Teams support for meeting migration service. So this is nice in that this is the MC177517. This is talking about the migration service running and being triggered, the MMS, if you will, being triggered and changing people's Skype meeting information to Teams. Okay, so this is to help you with that migration into the cloud, to be able to switch your users so that, or switch the meetings so that they switch over. So when you do a migration from for a user from on-prem to the cloud, it's going to trigger the MMS. When you make admin changes to the user's audio configuration settings, so if you, for instance, enable someone to be able to use phone and give them that license, it's going to be triggered. But or switch them obviously to being Teams only. This fourth one, though, is the one I wanted to highlight for this message. When you use a PowerShell commandlet, any PowerShell commandlet apparently, because it's talking about down what you need to do to prepare for this change is, what you need to do to prepare for this change is, if you use PowerShell for scripting, then you need to update your scripts to include this new parameter, migrate meetings to Teams equals to, and have false as the flag, so that it doesn't actually kick MMS off every time you run those scripts. So just be careful if you do have scripts running to do updates with Teams, that it will trigger MMS to go through and update all of those Skype, if you switched users over, the Skype meetings to Teams meetings. So, all right. We talked about this functionality. This is MC177579, the shareable links in Word and Outlook. If you remember, if you grab a link and put it in a Word document or an Outlook, and to email to someone, it was going to create a shareable link for you and assign permissions for you, right? This is an update to that announcement. They've received feedback that when you have your default, remember we said it would set it to the default for your organization, that if you had your default set to direct specific people, it really didn't work the way you thought it would work. So they've updated it, so it's not going to do that. So with the update, only people in your organization with a link, that setting, or anyone with a link will be those settings will be put on that shareable link. If you have your default sharing in your organization set to direct specific people, there'll be no change to the current experience. So only the people who have access already will be able to access it. It's not going to set permissions at all. It's not going to change that at all. All right. I do like what you need to do. There's nothing you need to do to prepare for this change. That is incorrect, of course, as people who watch this show a lot. You do need to update your users. I would, if you've already updated users about this functionality, you're going to need to go back and update them again. If not, you definitely want to share how this functionality is going to work. I see it working a lot, people using a lot in Outlook versus Word, but I'm sure there's some people putting links in Word. I hear about linked documents all the time, meaning documents with links to other documents. So definitely want to update your users on this planned update. No chatter about previous topics here, so I'm going to in the chat room, so I'll keep going. Feature updates. So focus on active teams, MC177587. This is, I think, a great update, and I'll tell you why. So let's talk about what it is. What it is, you have in Teams, you have a listing of all of your teams over on the left-hand side. Left-hand side for you, but and it just shows the ones that have been active or that you have been looking at before, but it doesn't necessarily update as far as the ones that you have been working with. So it says over the next few weeks, which again, it'll be rolled out to all customers in early May, worldwide by the end of June. Teams you haven't visited in the last 45 days will be automatically reordered and moved to the bottom in the more category, the more where you can see more teams. This is, I think, great in that keeping me have the ability to see the ones I'm most active in. So I love this screenshot. So I'll just tell all the product teams in Microsoft, please add more documentation in these announcements like this screenshot, where I really don't need to go to the more information. If I don't need to, I can just see, oh, that's what it's going to look like. Top notch. So this is showing where you can go to more and see the teams. Now, I want you to, there's two things about this update. One is there's nothing you need to do to prepare for this change. Again, wrong. You're going to need to tell your users, because if they're used to seeing all the teams they're used to seeing and then all of a sudden they don't see them, then there's a problem. So we need to train them, make sure they're aware of this update. They are going to get a prompt, which is nice, but we all know users and they just click got it and move on without actually reading sometimes. The second is this 45 days is hard coded. It's 45 days whether you're the way you work is different or not. It's 45 days. Will this be changed and allowed for you to update that number of days? Hopefully, but right now it is 45 days. So, yep, like Joanne just said, she's only active in a small percentage of the team she works in. So this is, I think, a good update. She said it's a good update because it does move those to the top for you. So kind of like when you're visiting, I don't know, like SharePoint Home, it shows you the frequent use sites, the ones you use most. So I think it is a good update. Most people will see those updates they see, or see the teams they see and use more often, and it'll be easier. All right, next update, MC177588. This is, and we'll see another update later that it's basically the same thing, but it is for the Dynamics 365 group. But they're changing the experience when a user signs out of Office 365 and when they get an application error, when it actually errors. They're going to, for organizations who use branding for their sign-on screen, for when your users are logging in, you have branding for your own company, logo, and that kind of thing. They're going to have that branding on the sign-out page as well as those error pages, like I said, so the authentication error pages. So I think this is great, that experience. It's fluid, so users are not confused, and making sure that they're in the right environment, that kind of thing. So I think it's a great update. Mid-May is when they're going to start rolling this out, completed by the end of May, so pretty soon. You don't need to prepare for this change, and I kind of agree with that, but you might, if you have some documentation on that may include some screenshots or something, you may want to update those. All right, the MC177592. This is an updated feature, the structural navigation performance banner. This is a thing for SharePoint Online if you're using structural navigation for your site. So instead of using the metadata navigation, you're using structural, so you can choose that on your site. They're going to, if Microsoft notices you're doing that and it's causing your page to render slowly, which happens a lot. This is actually a known thing, that structural navigation can slow down your sites, your SharePoint Online sites. Microsoft is actually going to insert an alert for site owners. So you'll see it says site owners will see the following banner, and it says slow performance detected, and it tells you why and how you can improve your performance. Now, this is going to be starting to roll out to targeted release organizations early April. It's mid-April already, anyway, and rollout completion by the end of April. So again, we didn't get a lot of warning here, which is, I think, kind of bad, only because this is site owners. This is not administrators. This is not like site collection administrators. This is site owners. So this is most certainly is going to be users seeing this. You need to get on this. Organizations, you need to be prepared for this. Your help desk needs to be prepared for this. What does this banner mean? What should I do? Those kind of questions. But not only that, you're going to need a plan. You need to have a response to those questions planned for when you get those questions, so that users know what to do. You give them guidance. Should it be that they have a ticket and it goes to your SharePoint admins to help them walk through, or whatever it should be, your organization needs to prepare for this. This is actually I think a bigger deal than they're making it out to be, because it's right in front of your users, right in their face. So be prepared. I think it's a good thing. Performance is a huge key for users. When things are really slow, they hate it. So I think this is a good thing in the long run, but in the short term, we need to make sure we update our users, okay? Next, MC177594. This is a new feature, full fidelity shared libraries in OneDrive. I first read it and went, I don't know what this is talking about. And I'm a SharePoint guy. So I read it maybe 3 times. And really what this boils down to, in OneDrive, you're able to see your frequent SharePoint sites listed over on the left-hand side. And when you go to them, it will show you the document libraries on those sites. You're not going to the SharePoint site. You're still in OneDrive. It'll show you those document libraries. And then, but within that view of the document library, you can see metadata and do sorting and filtering and etc. So let's take a look at it. I'm in OneDrive. You can see OneDrive. Let me maybe make this a little bigger so everybody can see it. I'm in OneDrive. Here are sites that I have clicked on, that I have used quite frequently. And this is one of my sites. And this is the document library that's on that site. And I have 2 documents, you'll see. So I'm able to sort, I'm able to filter these. I'm also able to, I will be able to do views. This doesn't have any views, but I can do views on these. So having that full fidelity of the columns, and again, you can notice I am not going to the SharePoint site at all. This is all about documents. OneDrive is all about documents, and I'm able to just go to documents. So I was wanting to show you if it has multiples. So here's a site that has multiple document libraries. I get to pick which one I want to go to, and then I can just click on it. So pretty cool. Love it. Being able to have that full fidelity with sorting and filtering. You can imagine having a lot of documents here. It's fantastic. So if I'm working with files, boom, right here they are. I love this update. Let's see. Next, MC177601. New Outlook on the web, search filters. Okay, I love this update as well. So if you're in Outlook desktop and you want to search for content, I do not, and I've said this on the show before, I do not have a goal of inbox 0. I just don't. I manage my inbox differently. And so there's a lot of stuff there. Great, fine, but I need to find it. So being able to find things that have attachments, or the way I've tagged them, or who they're from, date range, that's all important. So when I'm in Outlook on the web, I want to be able to do the same thing. So Outlook on the web, I am able to, let's see. So I have this Outlook on the web here, and I'm able to go and search for, I'm able to go to the filters and pull down filters, and over on the right hand side be able to search for who it's from, who it's to, subject, etc. I love this, being able to specify my search filters, because I do this all the time, right? All of the time, looking for content, and usually I find it and it works well for me. So if you do this, then I think if you do that in Outlook, now you can do it on Outlook on the web. It's fantastic. It is rolling out to targeted release mid-April. You can see I already have it completed rollout worldwide by the end of June. So I think that's fantastic. You don't need to do anything to prepare for this change. True, it's not affecting existing functionality, but it's bringing new functionality. So I think it's something you should highlight in your brown bag lunch, or your newsletter, or your adoption site that you have for your users with that, where you announce changes. I think that's a great one to highlight. All right. Great. There's other people who are not inbox 0 camps. That's fantastic. So I guess Joanne is not. That's fantastic. Thanks for being there with me. I know I'm not the only one, so that's great. I mentioned this earlier, that the Dynamics 365 users are getting the same update with the sign-in, the pages. If you have on your sign-out page and your authentication page, errors pages, if you've branded your sign-in, then your sign-out and your those authentication error pages will be branded as well. So same update. That's MC177607. Again, just targeting those Dynamics 365 users. Okay. This one is pretty easy, but it'll affect you, those admins and those people who talk about 365 licenses a lot, they're actually removing the word enterprise from those e-plans. So right now, the display names for those enterprises are things like, and it shows you here, Office 365 Enterprise E3 is actually the display name for it. They're just removing the word enterprise and calling it Office 365 E3. I think it probably is redundant anyway, and so, you know, this update seems pretty small to me. Just know it's not changing the license, just the name. It'll go into effect on April 30th, 2019, so no real rollout, just kind of changing it for everyone at the same time. All right. And then last update, which is MC 177653. This is a Dynamics 365 update again. Updates coming to the authentication behavior on Dynamics 365 sign-in pages. So what happens when you go to log in to your organization and you're on the login screen and you put your email address in? If you have a custom sign-in page, it then recognizes that user's domain, right, which tenant it belongs to, and then sends it over to that login page. Okay. What it doesn't do is actually check to see if that's a valid user. Okay. So if you want to go to any organization's login page, see their custom branding, you know, see what's going on, you can just make up any email address you want to in their domain, and it will automatically redirect you to, if they have one, a custom login page. So it's a little bit shady there, not shady, but maybe a security, not a glitch or flaw, but I really want that to check, and that's what this update's all about. It will actually check to make sure that that username entered matches a username in that domain before it forwards it over to that login screen. So that's what it says here. Microsoft will check to see if that username exists in the respective domain before deciding where to redirect that user. It's going to introduce a new and improved error message handling on the sign-in pages if the username on the user that the person has put in does not match an account in the effective domain. So again, I like this. I think you will need to update some of your training materials just to make sure people, if they're logging in and they get an error of that user is not there, what does that mean? It just probably means you've put in a typo, you haven't been fired. So it probably means you have a typo, and just double check it. So that's what that update is all about. I am going to go back to a little bit. At the very beginning, we talked about some updates, and I'm told the audio was terrible. So I'm going to quickly cover these. The audience targeting in SharePoint Online is coming. This is an update that was announced at Ignite last year. But this one is just letting you know that audience targeting is coming to SharePoint News. This is one part of the audience targeting. It's not all web parts, but it's just the news. This is going to be rolled out very soon, mid-April, which is kind of now-ish, and by the end of June. So that's MC 177427. I think it's a great update. Check out the additional information. That's where it brought this blog post by Mark Cashman. And you're able to read more about what that's going to entail with the audience targeting of other things. But this one is just about news, organization news, okay? And I'm with Joanne. I cannot wait for audience targeting. Definitely need audience targeting on a lot of things. This MC 177498 is all about more information coming to the Graph API. So developers, you have it, it's available now, being able to get things like free busy availability for a group of users, resources, so like rooms and equipment that you might have in your directory. All right. And this is the SharePoint admin experience. I kind of quickly covered this, but hopefully with the audio not being too bad, sorry about that. But basically changing, we've been talking about the SharePoint admin experience, the new one being in preview. Well, it's going to come out of preview, and it'll be that way for all of your admins, your SharePoint admins. But if you've set it to something else, you can change it to be the classic experience for your admins. And if you've done that, then it will respect that setting, and will not change to the new SharePoint admin experience. So sorry about the audio issues I had beforehand. I hope that I didn't go through these updates too quickly. There was a lot of them. And we're going to hopefully have Daryl back next week. We need him, obviously, because audio is so bad. I'm terrible at this. But hopefully this has been educational. Please reach out to me or Daryl on Twitter. Let us know if you have any questions or thoughts about the show. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Dean joined us after I went through the chat room. So, Dean, thank you for jumping in the chat. We love seeing everybody in the chat room every week. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.